Drink the Nation is a podcast for thoughtful, informed adults, preferably with a pour in hand. The views and opinions expressed on the show are those of the hosts and guests only, and do not reflect the views of any employers, institutions, licensing boards, government agencies, bourbon distilleries, or family members, especially our family members. They've asked us to be very clear about that. This show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said here should be taken as medical, psychiatric, legal, or professional advice. If you're in crisis, call a professional. If you're mad at something we said, we suggest journaling or emailing us with civility. We're here to challenge ideas, not diagnose strangers. We're clinicians, not your clinicians. And we have the bourbon to prove it. Let's go. All right, welcome back to Shrink the Nation. We're on the couch with America. Today, we're doing a bonus episode. It's with myself, David, and Rob. We're going to take some of the feedback that we've gotten and just kind of go over some of the topics that we've already covered, maybe in a little bit, I don't say more or less detail, but maybe a little bit less jargon, more friendlier detail. But to start, I'm still going to introduce myself, David. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist. I've been for some time, but I've also spent 20 plus years in the military. I am still the tech geek. I still very much in love spreadsheets. I don't know why. There's just something about them. I love the uniformity. They just make sense.
I'm sure the audience loves that. Yeah.
I love the numbers. I don't know what it is.
You're expanding our demographic. Keep going.
I really am. No, I love it. Lately, you know what? I really like Vue. I don't know if you know Vue.js. And it's a code. It's a language that no, I lost you. Okay. Well, I like it. So look for good things with that. But today, I am pouring an embarrassingly empty bottle of Elijah Craig small batch, the father of bourbon. I'm not going to retell your story, but
it's a story worth telling.
It's a story.
Elijah Craig supposedly was a reverend, and he had some pretty old casks, and he wanted to store his whiskey, and they either had fish or pickles. The story changes. So he decided to char the interior. He stored his corn whiskey in those, and bourbon was born.
And my goodness, it is delightful. So that's what I'm enjoying today.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
All right. So I'm Rob, 25 years psychiatry, 30 years in the military. I am sadly not drinking today. I am at an undisclosed location where alcoholic beverages are not authorized. So if I were drinking today, I believe I would have went with Old Crow. Old Crow, because I gave it a hard time on our first test episode. I believe I referenced it as best drank in an alley behind a dumpster. And I thought, maybe I'm being unfair to Old Crow. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to try it the next opportunity I have. Also, good story that I won't bore you entirely with, but it was named after the Reverend James Crow, who apparently a lot of reverends were into making the whiskey back in the day.
Outstanding. All right. Well, unfortunately absent is Keith, but he'll be with us the next time. He's out enjoying himself. Yeah.
On a nude beach somewhere.
Yeah, enjoying life. I'll pour a little extra out for both of you, so I'll have more, I guess. I'll finish off the bottle maybe.
Seems fair.
I don't know. Yeah.
Seems fair.
You can
sensible.
You can watch me drink the Elijah Craig small batch as we discuss these topics. So
okay.
So there we go.
Well, before we jump into those topics, I think there's a couple of things about the first few episodes that we just have to get to the bottom of. The first being Moops. What is a Moop? You said it twice. Yeah.
It's the Moops. Are you serious? You don't know what the Moops is?
No.
Are you? Okay, so really? I have to explain this? Yeah, so it's an episode of Seinfeld, and it was George was playing Trivial Pursuit with the Bubble Boy, and the answer to the question was the Moors.
Yeah.
but it was
Okay.
misprinted on the card, and he said it's the Moops. So, and of course, when you're, you and your Appalachian
Asians.
accent that gets thicker as I have been told. The more people who listen to us, they notice the more that you drink, the thicker your accent gets as the show
Yeah.
goes on. Yeah, the Hessians, not the
Yeah.
Haitians, the Hessians. Yeah. So the Moops, it was the Moops. Yeah, that's where
Right.
that came from.
And for the audience, my disclaimer is I am definitely not a historian, nor do I claim to be. And yes, I have a bit of an accent when I am angry or drinking bourbon. It becomes more noticeable.
Yeah. But that's what we're here for, is to make fun of you on that. And I mean, honestly, if we don't do that, what are we here for? And
Exactly.
really,
Right. Shaming me is,
Yeah.
I think, one of the core missions.
absolutely. One of the more enjoyable things I think for myself is trying to sit here, try to semi-host the show whilst drinking actual real bourbon, pay attention to the two of you having really deep conversations about psychoanalysis of these really complex topics, and me trying to pay attention as I'm starting to get a little bit inebriated. And then all of a sudden you ask me a direct question about something, and I'm trying to stay in the moment, and I just get lost and go off on some tangent, or I'm trying to keep the show in a direction. Yeah, so that's super fun too, but it happens, and it's been a lot of fun, so I'm going to keep it up. But listening back, I'll listen back and go, man, that sounded really stupid. But so I'll tease myself too.
I think we're establishing a brand, and stupid may be part of that brand. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah, I have a really, really good graphic now for the Charioteer id Ego Superego.
Oh gosh, I was so hoping you would
analogy.
Try this one again.
I have it. No, I have it. It works. You know what? Screw you, but it does work. It does work.
It's terrible. It's
it works
terrible.
though, but it does work.
For the audience, Freud had this thing that was referenced as a tripartite model of the psyche, and he said there's the id, which is your baser impulses, the three Fs: feeding, fighting, and mating.
Yeah.
The
you got we got it. We got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other F.
And
haha.
And then there's the superego, which is the rules that you live by, your conscience. And then there's the ego, which tries to manage the two, bring them together, and then facilitate behavior. And the ego is often used lots of different ways, but in this context, it's the front-facing you, the you think of when you go to the grocery store, take a shower, brush your teeth. It's that you, but it's managing both these impulses. And David's wonderful analogy that somewhere, I don't know, it was horses. There were horses involved.
It was a charioteer. It was a chariot. It was a chariot.
Horse shit may have been involved.
Okay, so in my defense, it's not a great one. Plato's Phaedrus, there has been this analogy has been used before to kind of define in some ways loosely. So now, and also my defense, I really don't like Freud's anything. Like, I really don't like using Freud to psychoanalyze stuff. I just think it's silly. It's magical. I don't like using it. And so,
as opposed to the others.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, and that's why I'm, me, my perspective is based more on like attachment. But even then, I really don't like basing a lot of my therapy off of these old theories. I really like to just sit there with somebody and talk about their life. And so I don't get into a lot of Freudian theories. And so when that question was asked of me and I wasn't thinking in any way, shape, or form about id, ego, superego, and he asked me that question, for some reason, the only thing I could think of in that moment was about id, ego, and superego. Yeah, it was. And I came up with, so.
I started with horse shit and worked my way back to cherries.
No.
Well,
anyway.
you kind of ended with horse shit too, but
yeah.
No, it was a valiant try. It was a valiant try, and I do not think anyone in existence outside of maybe a few analysts in New York still lean heavily on Freud's thoughts. Now, personally, I do buy repetition compulsion And I do see it over and over again. But separate topic, separate show, separate issue.
If Since I'm the one who gets to decide on the show topics, I'm thinking we may not ever get to any Freudian topics. But hey, who knows? Like if I get maybe I'll get
Well,
desperate and we'll get no. I'm just teasing. We vote on them and I get final say. So no, we might get that.
exactly.
It's whatever
We vote on them, and then whatever I tell them they're going to talk
and then
about is what they're
whatever.
talking
No,
about.
usually what ends up happening is it's whatever the hell you guys talk about in the middle of the show as I'm trying to steer it back to whatever topic. That's the joy. That's the joy of it. So no, it was a really bad analogy of which I think I made it work after the fact, but it's irrelevant now. So my bad. I apologize to those who are really confused by it.
Hey, I
But
thought
anybody
the
who knows what a
hate
chariot is, yeah.
right, and I thought the Haitians were sitting in Trenton, and George Washington went over, and so it
It's all right.
happens. It
Well,
happens.
for anybody still listening, good job. Thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
You are our super fans. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Next. So, any other embarrassing things we should talk about? Any other gaffes?
Nothing that outstrips the Haitians. That really.
All
So that one will live with me for a while. But beyond that,
Well, I mean, it's a accentual thing, so we'll forgive, we'll forget. That's
okay,
what this is all about, isn't it? Well, we won't forget, but we'll forgive. We'll try.
I'll hear
We'll
about
never
it
we'll
again.
never forget. Yeah, we'll bring it up from time to time. Well, so our first episode was talking about the grandiosity complex, and let's start there because really want to tie all this together. And so we'll go. What are your thoughts? If we could try to simplify a little bit more than maybe we did before on how grandiosity is impacting society at large, America specifically. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you put three psychiatrists together and you get jargon, and I fear sometimes maybe a race to see who can out intellectualize each other. And it's simple, and at its core, it's convincing yourself you're great to defend against the fear that you're terrible. So, I ended up thinking a lot about grandiosity in our country, and we were bouncing around from, I was talking about the inception of our nation, how we could possibly develop a national character of grandiosity. I still believe that's true. I mean, you think about who came to the Americas, it wasn't the best and brightest early on. It was folks that had few options or were being religiously persecuted, and they came here. So they had chips on their shoulder, and they had something to prove. And one could see how they might end up becoming grandiose in an effort, hey, we're better than them because we work harder, we're more ingenious in our approach to things, and then start to believe it, that this becomes the national character. So that's sort of an inception. We were bouncing around though also to sort of modern concerns about the narcissistic generation and the grandiose generation. And I guess when I step back from it, I can see how it all ends up maybe intertwining, that we are, by inception, we were uh, likely doomed to fail. We were a new experiment in democracy. We were relatively underfunded and poorly defended. We had some belief structures that we were hesitant to have standing armies. There were many things that could have smashed us in those first few years, but instead we developed a national outlook that we're the best. And we were helped along with that. American exceptionalism, which came about in about 1830 1935, French political scientist. So we were kind of set up. Look how good they are. But I don't know if we ever truly felt it. And at our core, probably up till World War II, we weren't. But then World War II happened, and we were the arsenal of democracy. And post-World War II, we were the only nation that was relatively untouched, and we killed it for a long time, and that became very important to us. And somehow, you think of the wars we fought in between that we've lost or didn't win. Lost is a loaded term, but didn't win. Somehow we still were able to maintain that sense of grandiosity, maybe with the exception of Vietnam. But so we sort of jumped around, and I fear that it may have been difficult to follow from an audience standpoint.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there was a lot of high level jargon used on that. But if we get down to the crux of it, if we get down to the now, why would we be talking about grandiosity at all? Why does that matter today? Because obviously that's been a part of our country for a very long time, but there seems to be a part of it that is very impactful, even more so today than it ever has been before, at least culturally. And so why do you think that is? Like, how is that showing up, and how is that something that everybody can probably see and identify with, regardless of education level?
Sure. So we are at a inflection point for so many reasons. There's so much uncertainty right now, and whether it's cultural uncertainty, the cultural mores are changing, economic uncertainty. It's also the world order is changing, and whether you're a close follower of the news or not, you get that sense, and you get the sense that we're threatened, that our position in the world is in question, and maybe we can't sustain it. And certainly, I mean, this isn't a new concept, but the fall of the Roman Empire took like 500 years. And if our peak was World War II, that run has to end at some point, if history is a guide whatsoever. And I think there is that potential that as a nation, things are changing and the world order is changing, and we may not be in the same position we always have been. Maybe USA #1 isn't going to last. Economically, there's some indicators that it may not last. We've got an incredible deficit that the bill will come due at some point. That's going to have impacts on us. And even if you're not tracking these things, you feel these things, and you feel them in your own household, and you feel them more on the level of your job opportunities, inflation. Can I pay the bills? Can I buy food? Can I take the family on a vacation this year? All the things that make us feel good in a family to take care of our family are somewhat threatened. And you take those feelings, and they have to go somewhere. And it's likely they're going in lots of different directions. But one place that we consistently want to do is blame the government, blame the incumbent party for this is their fault. We're going to try the next party. Now, history tells us we kind of do that over and over again. So now, whether it's their fault, whose fault, Democrat, Republican fault, I don't know. And really their time in power is so short that so many of the factors that are playing into right now started so many years ago. I couldn't even tell you who was in power or who made those initial decisions and how they sort of played out in the context of an ever-changing world and ever-changing technology. But in the here and now, there's plenty of reason to feel unsettled. And certainly there are options on how to manage that. But one of those options is grandiosity, is doubling down on we're #1. And it's not our fault that we're failing. It's someone else's fault. We're great. We're perfect. Someone else is doing something to us. And, unfortunately, sometimes we can certainly scapegoat on the outside. We can pick a nation that's picking on us or creating that dynamic, or we can face inside and we can look at each other and say it's your fault. It's Democrats' fault. It's Republicans' fault. It's immigrants' fault. We can always do that to push that blame elsewhere. So we're still #1. These people are the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think that plays out as far as now? Because I think what we're seeing that maybe is really different today than it has been over the last 20 years before it is the technology is so different. How do you see that having an impact now? Like, what's the difference? Because it seems like things are really ramping up a lot faster. Or does it? I guess that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm feeling.
Sure.
But
So, and I am not going to say Nazi.
no, I don't think. Yeah, I don't want you
I
to say
am
Nazi.
I am going to reference Germany 1930, though. Another scenario in which, of course, theirs was much more dire after the Treaty of Versailles. And again, not a historian. Someone else can call me to task on this. I'd be happy to learn. But after the Treaty of Versailles, and basically the blame for World War I was placed on them, and the payment for World War I was placed on them, and it kind of crushed them economically for quite some time. But they still had a great deal of pride in Germany, and they could turn backwards and talk about the greatness of Germany of the past. Now, it's a little more complex than that. Germany really wasn't a unified nation until a certain point, but they still could look back and say, we are a great people. The problem is something. And unfortunately, what they ended up landing on were, well, we know how World War II played out. So I don't have to go down that road.
Yes.
So I see us very often calling on the greatness of the past. That, it's a major slogan right now, even, and it has been for the past 9 years, that as if we've lost something. And I think that taps into make America great again. And so I think that plays into what I was saying, that there's a sense that we've lost something. We've lost a step where, we're a middle-aged fighter now. We don't heal so good. Our punches don't have as much snap in them as they once did. And we're looking backwards saying, but we were great whenever. And that's always my question, is like, when were we great and when did we cease being great? I don't know the answer to that. I lived through the 80s when we were terribly frightened, and that was the last economic crisis or economic cycle. But we really thought Japan was taking over the world. There was so many movies about how American ingenuity and our willingness to work hard was going to overcome the technological greatness of Japan. And this was at a time when everything was made in Japan. And then that played out a different way. But here we sit, again, looking backwards for that greatness, whenever that greatness was, because there's our current sense of grandiosity is being threatened. It's not on solid ground to most people, and that's based on their actual experience of their life in the moment. Now, technology, I think the problem is, looks like you want to say something, please.
Well, that's what I really wonder, is part of that being how much of the experience of people's actual lives, or how much of the looking back, or how much of the actual experience now is really based upon what people are seeing from other people who are presenting something that isn't real to begin with. So it really does have that feel of the difference now is that you have this. I do hear that. The difference now is that you have social media where people are either posting their best, the best of the best, most wonderful day of their lives, or the worst, right? And that's all they're seeing. That's all anybody is seeing, is they're seeing nothing but all this wonder, all this greatness. And when you're not having the best day of your life every day of your life, but all you're seeing is everybody else's best day of their life being presented to you every single day, and you're getting this grandiose picture just bombarding you. And when you turn on the TV or whatever, Netflix, or, and all you can think is, my gosh, what's wrong with my life? It used to be, if this is what's out there, but I don't have a piece of that action, there must be something really terrible happening. when the reality is nobody really has that all the time. This is just what's being presented as if it was real.
Yeah, social media gives us the opportunity to curate our life. We can curate the best parts. We can find, I mean, it's like, I used to do landscape photography, and I could take these
Of course
wonderful
you did.
I could take these wonderful landscape pictures because I was choosing the angle and I was choosing the timing and the lighting. If you drove by that spot, you would have looked at it and thought, this is the most mediocre place on earth. But my photo of it was amazing because I could
Yeah.
curate it. I could curate the angles, and we can curate our life. We can present all the good things. And if somebody who's not discerning is watching this, or even if they are, and they're already feeling unsettled, and they're already feeling like, gosh, I don't know how I'm going to cover all the bills. The price of eggs or insert thing is going up. I couldn't give my kids extra money to go to the movies. It certainly is going to impact them, because you look at the next person who's on some fantastic voyage and you think, how do they do it? What am I doing wrong? And if that creates additional angst, that faceless anxiety, that's going to contribute to the milieu, to the overall environment, all the people of the United States being angsty together, and it's going to affect the national character.
But it does. I don't know that it is an if. I think it's an it does. It has, right? This is something that absolutely has. I mean, based off the numbers of people who are on Instagram and Facebook and all the different social media platforms. What you have are people who are looking at the world through these curated lenses, and you're either showing the world something that isn't real, or at least the perfect picture view of what you want them to see, or you're seeing it. And then when you turn and you look at what you have, you're wondering, why isn't my life better? And then when you combine it with that USA, USA chant of everything is supposed to be so great, but I'm not getting a piece of that pie. So what's wrong? Something must be wrong. You have this very natural progression into that next part, which is, well, somebody's doing something, right? Like this is somebody's fault. And I don't know whose it is, but who's got the answer? And I think there's your favorite word, which is, I was hoping you'd say it, fervor.
Fervor. Hell yeah. Right. It's a good word.
It breeds fervor. It breeds that angst, right? It breeds that anxiety, because you feel like, where's my piece of the dream? Now, I mean, if we were to pick up and go to any other third world country and I think try to live for a couple of days, we probably would come running screaming back to our piece of America and say, oh, this is actually probably pretty good. But you pick up your phone and you start scrolling through Instagram again and see everyone who's just showing you the most amazing vacation that's ever been taken. And then you're wondering, why can't I afford to do that? Well, because most people can't. Right? And so but that is a problem, right? But that's all performance. Again, it's not real, but
You've just stimulated a prescription for later.
Excellent.
Remind me that I had a prescription.
That's the goal. Okay, so therein lies, there's a big part of why that grandiosity can be such a problem. Not even in just that the political environment has learned to take that on, right? They've learned to operate within that on all sides. I think both sides, the politicians have learned to be very grandiose, right? To exist within social media, to capture the attention in just the right amount of time, to just say what needs to be said. But that grandiosity that we all have, and that we're putting out there one another, just to say, look at this amazing thing that has happened in my life. in the hopes that a bunch of other eyes will look at it and see it and thumbs up it or whatever, and just have that desire for it. Because why? Right? Just that stimulation of what is it? Call it.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking of these, and I hesitate to call them political stunts because honestly, if you are a politician and you somehow help facilitate a factory to come into your district and it's associated with 80 jobs, that you should be there. You should be there. You should be there celebrating this and welcoming it for the people of your district. However, oftentimes what should be district news, local news, ends up becoming national because of the power of social media. And it does allow the perception that we're doing great things. Now, those 80 jobs is a drop in the bucket on the national scene, but on the local scene, it is a big deal. Whoever got those jobs, fantastic. Good for them. That is awesome. Changed their lives. But when you put it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, it gives this impression that this group, this party is doing these big things. So they don't actually have to do big things. And that is a very narcissistic stance that you can pretend to be great without actually being great. And anytime there's a lot of anxiety in a population, the politicians are going to take advantage of it. And honestly, I mean, historically, usually some great politicians, truly great politicians, may arise. Leaders. I'm not even going to call them politicians. I'll call them leaders. Some great leaders will arise, but among those, they're the minority. The majority are folks who are simply taking advantage of national anxiety for their own betterment. And we certainly do see this. And they have this incredible platform that has never existed. And I don't think we know what to do with it. We see this 80 jobs in Timbuktu. Well, that's in Africa. 80 jobs in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And if you are a member of that party, it makes you feel a little bit better. Oh, look at the good things we're doing. It's coming. The changes are coming, but it probably isn't. And then certainly all that anxiety, those expressions of political fervor, it feels good. It feels good. If you've ever been in a crowd, I experience this all the time in military settings. You're in a group of people that are reasonably like-minded, not down in the details. The military is a microcosm of the greater population, but have a shared goal, a shared perspective, a shared mission. And when everyone is singing the fight song or marching in cadence or doing something like that, it just feels good. You're not alone. So jumping behind the dear leader, whoever that dear leader might be, feels good until it doesn't, until change doesn't happen.
Right.
Did I render you speechless?
No, I thought maybe you had more to that. So
no.
And part of, I think, part of grandiosity, a big challenge with grandiosity is maybe the opposite of that when it comes to politics would be the lack of wanting to act when there isn't the opportunity to be grandiose. So in something that doesn't have the ability for that viral moment means that, well, then I don't want to do it. But, in so many situations, unfortunately, especially in the local level, I think you speak a lot about getting involved at that local level. That's where a lot of politics really matters to people. But an unwillingness to participate at that level where there really isn't going to be a lot of opportunity for grandiosity, right? You're not going to be able to.
No.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to stand up.
Dirty jobs aren't grandiose.
Right. Yeah. But
someone's got to pick up your horse shit when you drop it. So, I've taken on the task. I'm doing it. I'm not posting pictures of myself at Facebook shoveling your stuff.
Yeah. But that's another, I think, issue that comes along with this nation now that's become not just very grandiose, but addicted to it, right? Only wanting to see the things that either make me very excited for it or very jealous of it. There are a lot of dirty tasks that need to get done that otherwise maybe people are kind of shying away from, that that could be seen as a problem. We need
You
to.
can't do a TikTok dance to most of the hard work of being a politician. I mean, truly, the administrative work of being a politician is not glamorous. It's not grandiose. It doesn't lend itself to photo ops. It doesn't lend itself to TikTok dances. And why do it? And this is not every politician. I do not want to cast the net so wide to say every politician is this, but I can say that some of the more currently successful, success not necessarily meaning achieving things, but achieving notoriety or popularity, depending on how you want to phrase it, their whole career is based on not the administrative minutia of governance. It is based on photo ops, TikTok videos, Instagram pictures, etc.
Right. But there's maybe one might argue that there's maybe problems with that. We both.
I could argue there's a lot of problems with that.
Well, I'm being generous, but having spent a lot of time in the military, it's the people we are, at least my experience was that the people who rolled up their sleeves and got the work done were rarely the people calling attention to the fact that they were the ones getting the work done. It was typically, unfortunately, the people who were busy writing up their own awards for the work that somebody else did who got the awards. It was the people who were doing the work that were getting the work done. Now, is that 100%? No, not at all. I mean, I think a lot of times there were people who were really good, really great leaders, were people who were able to inspire people to get the jobs done, and then who were smart enough to know, hey, you got to reward those who were doing the work, delegate appropriately, and then write up the awards and make sure that your folks were getting taken care of. But there are always going to be the people who were just very good self-promoters, who were always following the Peter principle, which is getting promoted to your level of incompetence, getting promoted up until the point that you just were incapable of actually performing at any level, right? You just get promoted, and then you have no idea what you're actually doing because you were just promoted because you kept telling everyone how great you were. And they were like, okay, great. Yeah, you're promoted. And then you got to that level and you were like, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's a rough way of saying the Peter principle. I just want to explain it, but that's,
well, and I in general in local politics, there is less engagement, even though there's some important things that would actually make a difference to most people's day-to-day lives that could be accomplished. It's not exciting. It's not grandiose. It is a lot of administrative work, and it's a lot of minutia, and it's a lot of local criticism. So it certainly doesn't feed the ego quite like having, 250,000 followers on Instagram. If that's a lot, maybe it's small.
I don't think that's actually, it's probably it's a lot, but I don't think it's, all right. Well, so I think we have beaten grandiosity to death.
We've taken it from origins all the way up to the present, and we've reflected on the nation versus individuals. So
All right. So we have talked. Now let's go. We'll talk cognitive dissonance a little bit. Quick rundown. Cognitive dissonance. What is it, Robbie?
It's when your reality of who you are conflicts with something that you do. So you may have a view of yourself that you are, say, an ethical person, but then you are, say, at the store and they give you an extra 10 back in change, and they did, and you walk out with it. That's cognitive dissonance. You've got to now reconcile that I see myself as a moral, ethical person. I just did an unethical thing. So people will go different directions, but certainly one's like, well, I spend a ton of money in this store. They owe me or whatever. But you have to defend against that. That sitting with cognitive dissonance causes anxiety, and you have to come up with a strategy to cope with it, to alleviate the anxiety. From a national standpoint, one that I mentioned in that episode was that we are a nation built on the premise of all men are created equal, but we had slaves. So clearly, there's a bit of cognitive dissonance there. What we stand for and what we were doing to meet whatever demands of the time. I say that as if there's any demands that justify slavery. There's not, but there was a structure, there was a system. In order to bring everyone together, there were compromises that had to be made, and that does create dissonance. And the history of the United States is really cognitive dissonance. Over and over and over again, we have done many things in our history that does not necessarily live up to the values and the basis for which we were created, what we all believe in when we say the Pledge of Allegiance and listen to the Star Spangled Banner or listen to Retreat, which I think you heard. What we think we stand for, there are lots of examples where we don't necessarily stand for that. And we're dealing with it in a very significant way at this point. There's a lot of the choices that are being made for the nation that are diverging from historic norms, and one could argue, and one could argue against, but one could argue are fly in the face of the values of the founding fathers, which is always a thing. Every side gets to claim that they're behaving in a way consistent with the founding fathers. You know, the guys have been dead for quite a while, so who knows?
Something that if we were able to reanimate the founding fathers, that they would be very non-progressive, unpleasant people to be around. You know, even by any standard. And I think that you know, to just go back a couple of hundred years, it would probably would not be as no matter who you are. I think you would probably be pretty surprised at the conversation you might have with somebody who was in you know, and that's just the nature of time, right? Like that's just the reality of it, right?
You never want to meet your heroes.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I think, which is fine. But really, I think to tie together how grandiosity kind of begets this cognitive dissonance now. This world that we're coming from today, because, and I want to be clear, humans really have not changed a whole lot, and they certainly have not changed a lot in the last 100 plus years since Freud started, you know, really writing this stuff down, right? I mean, we had this conversation about I don't care for Freud's observations, but you know what? He was certainly the first to really make these notes. But humans have not changed a whole lot. They haven't in thousands of years. What has changed is the environment that we live in. The culture has shifted dramatically. The language that we use has shifted dramatically. The technology has shifted. The politics, everything has really changed a lot, especially in the last 2 decades. The last decade. I mean, the last 5 years, AI, I mean, has really shifted so much. So let's just talk how the level of grandiosity, the level of that, and we haven't really brought up that term to this extent, but that narcissism, that feeling of self-importance that people have on that individualistic level, how does that translate into cognitive dissonance now?
I'm not really gonna. I can go back farther than AI. I can just go back to 2002 when Google became a thing, and all of a sudden, everyone was Googling everything, and that certainly sped up with the advent of smartphones, because not only, before you actually had
So
to
we're talking
think of the
like
question.
2006. Yeah, 2006, 2007 now.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
So
the iPhone.
initially, you had to actually remember the question you wanted to ask, go to your office, go home, get on your computer, probably had to boot it up. It probably took, it was a delay. So you could Google virtually anything, get an answer. With the advent of smartphones, 6, 7, 8, all of a sudden, and I guess what, the iPhone came out in 8?
No, 2000. It was like 2000. It was 2006, 2007 was the iPhone.
7, maybe late 7. But now you had it in your pocket, and that certainly has escalated. So here's a great example of cognitive dissonance. Someone Googling an answer, giving the answer as if it's theirs, and
2007.
then pretending or feeling briefly, I guess, smart, but knowing in their heart of hearts that they don't possess that knowledge. And I'm not going to use smart. Smart implies intelligence. What I mean is informed, but pretending they have that information and they don't. So that creates cognitive dissonance. And I think it's a harder dissonance to actually defend against. I had a conversation not too terribly long. Actually, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Everything was a long time ago. But I was talking to some young people, and they honestly
How old were
believed
they, Robbie? How old were they?
they were 22. They honestly believed, honestly, and this was heartfelt on their part, that they deserved higher entry level pay and better entry level jobs than at any other time in history because they were smarter. They know more than previous generations knew. And they really, truly, I think, believed it. Well, they consciously believed it. I believe it created a lot of cognitive dissonance in them that they also knew in their heart of hearts, when in their quiet moments at 3 a.m., when the demons are calling, that I don't know stuff. I don't know how to do the job that I've ostensibly went to school to do. I'm not capable. So they have to defend against it, and that dissonance the defense can certainly end up being grandiosity. So culture right now, environment right now, the social and economic situation right now, lots of cognitive dissonance and angst. And one of the primary ways we're managing it does appear to be narcissism or grandiosity.
Yes. Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
Yes. No, and now I really wanted to tie that together because there was a reason we were talking about these two concepts and why we were. Now, the third concept that we had touched on, and I think we actually talked a lot more about than we had intended to, which
Corn sweat.
was David Cornsweat and his just amazing pecs. I haven't seen them, but I assume they were amazing, right? They had to be, right?
Wait. I went and saw the movie today.
And
Lovely movie, actually.
how were
I
his
thought
pecs,
it was,
though?
they were amazing.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
is,
Were they
is
super?
he is
He's
dreamy.
a Superman.
I feel like I need to apologize though, because I thought his name was Corn S.
Mm-mm.
No, it's Coren
It's Corn
Sweat.
Sweat. Yeah, it's Corn
Yeah.
Sweat.
Yeah. I did not know this. I have not been following the Superman movie lead up, ramp up. I knew roughly who he was. I will say he makes a phenomenal Superman though. And I will also say, I think it's a good movie for this moment in time.
Good.
And then I will say nothing more because I'm not
Don't.
being paid to advertise.
Yeah, well, don't, no spoilers for all of us and
None.
David Cornsweat. No, let's talk. So ego integrity. So we need to.
I wish his name was Corn Sweat, though.
No,
that would make
it's
it
not
so
corn.
much
It
better.
wasn't. It's not corn. It was never Corn Sweat. It was Corn Sweat.
I thought it was. Was.
Yeah, because you're old and you don't follow
and
things.
I'm not on the TikToks.
Yeah, you're not on the TikToks. God. All right. So to just define ego integrity, we just to kind of give an idea of what that is. It's the ability to kind of look back at your life as with all the ups and downs, with all the pros, the cons, without saying, these are the things about me that I look at. This is the good in me. This is the bad in me, and be able to say, "Yep, that's me. That's my story. I'm okay with that." That's ego integrity.
Yes, it's sitting with a great deal of cognitive dissonance,
and being able to say so cognitive, and with the cognitive dissonance, and really being able to, and understanding that dissonance it's not weakness. It's what happens when you're still trying to be honest, right? That's really what that is. Or to say, I'm having conflict because I know that maybe what I'm doing isn't right. And I am still struggling with this concept of who I am and this action that I'm taking. And I'm trying to rationalize. I'm trying to justify it. I'm trying to say that I'm doing this, but here's why. And we all do it. We all do it all the time. So, I just wanted to be able to first kind of define that ego integrity, because I do think that was something that got lost in our conversation. But why is that
particularly
important?
after your chariots analogy? I mean,
Yes,
they were like,
yes.
"Am I the horse? What am I? What
In the
did the driver's
the
arm get
okay.
ripped off? Did he lose his
All right,
integrity?"
here's the deal.
So
The id in the chariots analogy
is the horse.
Id, the horse, the wild horse is the id. The chariot driver is the ego. He's trying to control the wildness. Right. The superego is an onlooker, is like the Caesar, who's basically sitting back and watching and saying, nothing that you're doing is right, but I'm just watching. Like, he has no real control over the situation, but he has a lot of comment. He has a lot of shit to say.
He's got a lot of shit to say.
He's got a lot of shit to say. And none of it's really good. He has no good comments, but he's basically just telling you how everything you're doing is wrong. That's the superego. The superego is not really particularly helpful, but he definitely makes you feel bad about everything wrong that you're doing, or at least telling you that you're doing wrong, even if you're probably doing stuff that's totally right. That's a superego. It's overly critical.
So,
and again, this is why it's not a great analogy. I know, but whatever. I'm gonna post my stupid ass picture with an explanation.
You should do that. Absolutely, because
I'm gonna post
that's totally going to help people. I think it may change the world.
And they're gonna wake up in an alley behind a dumpster,
wondering, empty bottle of Old Crow, the aroma of rotten milk and
rotting meat.
Yeah.
In the milieu.
Ego integrity on the individual level is exactly what you said, but it really is all these episodes of dissonance that come up throughout your life. I believe I'm this way. I did this thing. It doesn't comport with what I believe I am or who I am. And then we have to rectify those things. And if you're honest and you say, and by the way, not a spoiler, but they touch on this in Superman.
Don't spoil it.
I will not, but there is
earmuffs.
There is a thing.
Should you yell earmuffs in the middle of a podcast?
Earmuff.
Should you ever do that? Like
to the audience? Probably not. It's probably not a good business.
Earmuffs. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Probably not a good idea.
If you are honest with yourself and you say, I'm human, I fell short, I will try better tomorrow, and then you legitimately do try better, then you can maintain a sense of yourself. This is who I am. I'm imperfect, but I try, and I keep trying. If you are relying on, say, grandiosity or other coping mechanisms to never really face your imperfections, it's someone else's fault, it's they deserved it, whatever, then your ego integrity, your sense of who you are, is going to slowly disintegrate. As a nation, we have an ego integrity, a national sense of identity. It also, it's always been a little split because we have two political parties but historically we shared a unified vision of this is what the United States is, this is what we stand for, this is how we behave on the world stage. It does feel to me like our sense of national identity, our sense of a national ego is losing some of its connectivity at this moment.
That just seems been more as a product of the fact that the two political parties are so far apart. Is that a bad read on that?
It contributes because they are so diametrically opposed. And of course,
Yeah, like,
historically, they kind of have to be
well,
diametrically opposed. But, if you go
well,
back to from 1945 through even into the 90s, most every politician had served during World War II, at least through the 80s, had served during World War II. They had this shared sense of what America is and what America can accomplish. And they used to reference this as my friend across the aisle, and
yeah.
they'd crack jokes. They weren't as divisive, they weren't as aggressive, they weren't as now. I don't think you're ever going to find a Republican of any stripe and a Democrat of any stripe sitting together sharing a meal,
Well,
texting one another jokes. It ain't
I
happening.
don't. Well, I don't. There are some, like I do. There are some. There are some in the House that caucus, or they don't caucus together. There is a
Problem
subsection,
solver, problem solver
something like, no,
caucus.
no. There is a group of, I think it's like 50, where in order to join it, you have to join it with somebody from the other party. I think they have like 50 or something like
Well,
that. And
there's a great
but
prescription they've already implemented.
yeah, which is interesting. But now, does that ever lead to vote changes? I don't know. I'm not sure how that plays out. But
Sure.
that's kind of a it. Right now, it certainly has that feel that if one side says yes, then the other side just says no without a real discussion on what the topic was. Like, it could be anything.
And that kind of changed in the news. That seems to
Yeah,
be uh,
but that's
Bill Clinton, Newt Gingrich
that, and that's
legacy.
really, and that's been, I think, it really just that's sort of like we could be ordering pizza, and like, hey, who wants pepperoni? And it would just be like, well, gosh, they're saying, yeah, we're gonna have to go with sausage,
Yeah.
and that would just be it. And that's no way to order pizza. I'm just gonna tell you, like, you just sometimes you just gotta raise your hand and say, like, pepperoni's okay, or why not
That's my
both? The
new
only thing,
motto.
why not both? That's all. Like, we could go for the 3 meat treat at Little Caesars, as long as you're not putting vegetables on it. I'm fine. Like, don't ruin your pizza with vegetables. If I wanted a salad, I'd order a damn
If I
salad.
right,
That's
if I
all.
wanted heart health, I
Yeah, if I
wouldn't be
wanted
eating
something
pizza.
healthy, like if I wanted what my food eats, I would order a salad. But no. Anyways, well, it's okay. So we have, I think, rehashed, hopefully, the topics to satisfaction of our listeners. Really, for anybody who, if you have any questions, reach out to us. By all means, we have our socials, and hit us up on those. Smash that subscribe button.
Hit us up.
Hit us up.
Slide into our D.
Please. Gosh, you could slide to our DMs. No, ask question. Hit us on our socials. Socials at shrinkthenation.com. We have if you want to ask us questions there, I would love to read questions and try to answer them. That would be hilarious, because we would be answering them at the end of the show when I'm like, however many of these deep.
No doubt. Yeah, I definitely noticed that my diction gets much worse
God, I'm glad
by
you
the
said
end.
shun at the end of that. I'm glad you said shun. Anyway,
Well, we are explicitly rated for a reason, I suppose.
there is a reason for that. But also, for anybody who stuck around, no, we really appreciate that. No, we still have
Prescriptions. Yeah. And, I actually walked into today thinking we would just skip prescriptions because I didn't create one. But as we were talking, I have a great prescription for, and this is on the individual level. That is, every time someone posts a picture of some fantastic thing that they're doing, some trip or car or insert whatever thing that they're proud enough of that they're posting on Instagram, they also have to post a picture of their credit card statement.
I like it.
You know, it would rectify the dissonance, and the next person who looks at that and they're like, man, I would love to take a trip like that. Why can't I do that? And then they get down to the bottom and the person's, 20 grand in the hole on a high interest credit card. And you're like, that's why I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that.
No. Yeah. I really, anytime I think in order to do that, in order to post like the beautiful vacation photo, you should have to post the full like camera roll of all the pictures that you took.
The kids vomiting,
everything, like all of it.
Stupid argument you had with your spouse.
Just, I don't care. Like,
all
take
of it.
the 47 pictures you took to get that perfect photo, like the one where the kid, the kid's upside down in your arm, the one where you're
crying.
Like screaming. Yeah. Cause you get live photos now too, right? Like you get that one perfect second where everyone's smiling, but the 30 seconds before where you're like, shut your fucking mouth, everyone take, I swear, how many photos have I taken for you've probably done this, but the perfect vacation photos where you're like, I swear to God, if I have to take another picture, I'm going to murder everybody here. Everyone.
Yeah, I'm taking you into the beach or into the water, and I'm drowning each and every one of you.
You should also like, it should be like, you should have the picture of whatever the bathroom looked like during the vacation, right? After whatever the wonderful party was the night before, like that, all of it.
Absolutely.
Like you should have the reality of the vacation, how everyone looked.
You got to post all the ones of your smart ass teenager slipping in a middle finger somehow in the photo for no good reason.
we get the bunny ears. Oh, the horrible jet lag, the IBS, like the day you get back, like all of it. Just the entire vacation, because you know what vacation is not a terminal nightmare. Like all of it, it's all a fucking nightmare. Vacations out of the country, and then you get back to work, and you left for like a week, and it's like the rest of your job. Like nobody, like somebody had died or something. Like nobody knows how to do anything. You have 1,000 emails. They couldn't figure out how to, they were like, we didn't realize that you did that. We didn't realize how to flush the toilet the whole time you were gone. We just didn't realize that. Yeah. Anyway. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Reality should set in.
And I think those are both ridiculous because they'll never happen, and
I think that's
serious at the same time.
No, it is. So, absolutely.
We killed it both.
No. Okay. All right. We'll call it 2. All right. Well, again, thank you to everybody. Hit up our socials, smash that subscribe. We are currently streaming on all of your favorite platforms, and if we are not on your favorite platform, then you're not listening to us. So, sorry, but if there's a platform you want us on, let me know by hitting us up on like Facebook, Instagram, I don't know, TikTok,
slide into Dave's DMs.
slide into our DM. Yeah, slide on in. I know we're on Blue Sky. We're on a whole bunch of socials at shrinkthenation.com. We're there. And so our next episode, what did we decide it was going to be? A cultural nihilism. So that sounds so prepare to be super depressed. Cultural.
Well, I did end one of the episodes with an Arthur Schopenhauer quote, we are all lambs playing in the field before the watchful eye of the butcher. So I want to follow that up and really hone in on it next time.
Yeah, so we're really gonna hammer you with that. But no, it's been fun. But if you have any comments, so really we would love to hear them. We want to make this useful to everyone and fun. So hit us up. We got the music going. Sounds
all right,
fun.
We're out.
Later.